Hello. Hello, and a very warm welcome from me, Tim Hutchings, to Alnwick in Northumberland. That, the beautiful castle of Alnwick, sitting above the River Aln. And as you can see, the first ever European cross-country championships course is squeezed in there between the castle and river. It's been a long, long time coming. The women's race due to get off in about 30 seconds time, and that will be followed by the men's race. They've got just over 2 laps to run, 4.5 kilometres for these women. And they're underway. Very, very strong field indeed. The men's race, to an extent, brought on by the dominance of the Africans over the last few years. And really, some self-respect being brought back to the Europeans' top distance running men by the men's race later on this afternoon. The women, though, can rightfully claim to be amongst the very best in the world. 182 there in the green and red. That's Ribeiro of Portugal, the European 10,000 metres champion. So the big names right up there at the front very early on. Also look out for Katarina McKiernan of Ireland. McKiernan, 3 times now, 3 years consecutively, she has taken the silver medal in the Women's World Cross Country Championships. So this setting quite stunning. A mostly flat loop, although there's one very severe little climb halfway round the loop. Down there on the grass below the castle, the 11th century castle. And Ribeiro setting out her stall very early on in the lead there and looking quite comfortable in front of this fairly small but very, very elite field. Beat McKiernan very comfortably indeed. Just a couple of weeks ago in Bolbec, the first cross challenge, the IAAF cross challenge event of the winter. Indeed won that by 10 seconds. McKiernan has said that it'll take her a little while to get into her best racing shape. She regards the World Cross Country Championships as her main target. There's been a fair bit of rain through the week up in Northumberland, as there has over most of Britain, but the last 24 hours have been mostly dry, and the going is fairly solid underfoot, as you can see. But this is a very, very early charge by Ribeiro, the 25-year-old Portuguese. I'm a little surprised to see her go out quite so hard, but of course for her really this is virtually a sprint. This is a tough little climb on each lap. They'll only have to contest it a couple of times, but Ribeiro trying to open up daylight between herself and her pursuers early on. McKiernan at the moment, many people's pre-race favourite, back in 4th place in these early stages. 2:03 there in 3rd place going with Ribeiro. That's Kaladina, Yelena Kaladina of Russia. Certainly the Russians have brought a full-strength quintet here. 5 athletes in each team. You need 3 athletes to score in the women's race, so teams with a full complement have 5 athletes. Some countries, Switzerland for example, have only brought 1, but 3 are needed to score. British squad not regarded as particularly strong in this championships. 1 or 2 of the big names with injury problems or have chosen to give this race a miss, but might spring 1 or 2 surprises, the British squad. That's the long, long downhill drag coming off the top of that hill. And as you can see, the field very strung out already after less than 3 minutes of running. Beginning to close up a little bit at the front now, but certainly Ribeiro will have tested everybody's anaerobic capacity with that fast first kilometre. Won the European Indoors 3,000 metres title back in March in the Paris-Bercy complex. Ribeiro was a brilliant junior back in the mid-80s, then had 4 or 5 years in the doldrums, but has now come back and is, frankly, amongst the top 2 or 3 best distance runners in the world. 3:15 for the first kilometre there from Ribeiro, and this is what everybody hates. When somebody goes out in front, throws the gauntlet down and says, follow this if you can. And at the moment, it looks like a lot of them are having problems. 2:02 there. In second place is Churbanova, the 30-year-old Russian. Came 4th in the European Championships, 3,000 metres Churbanova, so has good speed. Has to be said, though, that Ribeiro herself is in very, very good form last summer, over 3,000 metres. She set a Portuguese record at the Goodwill Games, 8:42 rather, she ran there, Ribeiro. So has good speed and, of course, enormous strength. 3rd fastest in the world last summer, over 10,000 metres. Up that little valley beside the castle, now back out onto the flat ground beside the river. And this is where Ribeiro will really want to do some damage now in the middle section of the race. She won't be confident of her finishing speed. She won Bolbec just through strong, solid running throughout the race a couple of weeks ago in the north of France. That's a very tough testing circuit. But now McKiernan has moved up. The Irish girl, who is so popular, there'll be masses of Irish fans over to come and support her, has moved up in second place, right on the shoulder of Ribeiro, as if to say, well, you might have gone very fast in the first 2 or 3 minutes, but I've just eased my way through nicely. I've done it more sensibly, and here I am. Come on, let's see you do your worst. 2-3-3 there in fourth place is Vaquero of Spain, but they're stretching out now. There's the course, as you can see. Just completing one lap now. As you see that picture, they're coming around the top left-hand corner. But that first 5 minutes of running has really done some damage to the rest of this field. Ribeiro still looking very relaxed. McKiernan knows full well that she lost out a couple of weeks ago. Now that's interesting, that is incredible. They've actually taken the wrong lap there. The first 2 or 3 runners weren't guided over the correct course, and McKiernan went under the barriers to make sure she went over that man-made obstacle. That is incredible. So Alia Zilyayeva of Russia has moved to the front now with Ribeiro. Virtually unheard of in international terms, this woman, but the Russians obviously in very good shape for this first ever European cross-country championships. Ribeiro with a surprise competitor alongside her up in front there. McKiernan, who did the right thing by going under the barriers and clearing that man-made obstacle, just in case any disqualifications could have been offered up after the race. Has lost a few meters from it, but with Vaquero there, the Spaniard, back in fourth place. Certainly McKiernan still in the hunt, and again the athletes almost sent off course there. This is incredible. Some complications because throughout the morning they've been running domestic races. The North East of England Championships was run on the course, and they've had to move the course across a few feet just so that the athletes in these main international races aren't running over very rough trodden ground. But that's two officiating blunders I've seen in the first 6.5 minutes of this, and that's quite incredible. Very sad indeed. Ribeiro, fortunately it seems, has escaped without any damage being done and is still out in front there, and it does look as though McKiernan now is struggling to go with this running from the very strong Portuguese. Fernanda Ribeiro, 25 years old, beat McKiernan in Bolbec, fastest European this year at 10,000 meters. 2 major titles, European and indoor and outdoor, this year behind her. Came 10th in the World Cross Country back in Budapest in March when McKiernan was second. And I think McKiernan really feeling that her best racing will come in the new year when it is most important in many people's eyes. Some people regarded this race as being put on at a very strange time of year, although it's so difficult to find a race in the calendar now. December is not when a lot of the world's elite distance runners want to be in their best possible shape, but it has been received very well by the top European men and women, and you can't get any further up the rankings than Ribeiro. So 2-3-3, Vaquero of Spain, who was 6th in the World Championships in March, running very strongly, has gone through and is looking well. 1-4-3 there, leading that chasing group through. That's Gaviglio of Italy. Only 50th in the World Cross Country in March. And at the moment, there goes Andrea Wallace for Great Britain. She's really struggling, and that's disappointing. She was hoping for a top 10 placing at this championships. So it's Ribeiro then from Vaquero. In third place there is Zilyayeva of Russia. And McKiernan now in fourth place, still hanging on, but the gap's beginning to widen, certainly back to that second group, back in 5th, 6th place, and then onwards. And they hit the bell with 8.5 minutes on the clock. Ribeiro really is every distance runner's dream athlete when it comes to tactics. Never hangs around, always goes out in front and pushes hard. Totally destroyed the European Indoor Championships 3,000 meters field back in March when she put in a very hard last kilometer, ran away from them, so it wasn't left to any chance. And on the final lap, and likewise at the European Championships in Helsinki back in August, she won by the length of the straight. So Vaquero with the white gloves in second place, still hanging on very impressively to Ribeiro. McKiernan has moved herself through to third place. with Zilyayeva of Russia back and forth, but the rest of this field totally torn apart by the early pace from Ribeiro, and that's what's so hard in distance running. It's easy enough to go with a fast pace for the first 4 or 5 minutes, but it's that middle stage of the race when things settle down, you have to recover from that, and there's no let up in pace that is very, very hard to take. And that's when the cream sorts itself out from the milk. And as you can see, at the moment, Vaquero has obviously been putting in the right work over the last few weeks, as has Ribeiro, and perhaps McKiernan. Has actually said, McKiernan, that she's not adjusted her training or racing for this race. She intends to stick to her usual routine, which has produced such great results over the last 3 years. Remember, 3 times the silver medalist in the World Cross Country Championships, McKiernan. And each year, too, over the last 3 years, she has won the World Cross Challenge, which is really a test of the consistency of these athletes throughout the winter months. But this is incredible. Vaquero has hit the front and is now beginning to open up daylight on Ribeiro. Julia Vaquero, number 233, running for Spain, who do have a pretty strong squad. Not as strong as their men's squad, but nevertheless a solid team. Is pushing away hard now towards the final few hundred meters of this race. And Ribeiro and McKiernan at this stage seem powerless to do anything about it. 3 kilometers in 10:34. Not particularly fast when you think that several of these women have gone way, way below 9 minutes. An indication really of how tough the going is and how severe that hill is on each lap. So they're actually on the right circuit this time. Clearing that barrier is Vaquero with about a 10-meter lead over McKiernan, who seems to be rallying herself now. The Irish girl has come through into second place, has passed Ribeiro, who seems to be struggling, maybe even went too hard for herself even in that first 3,000 meters. And McKiernan now has got the Spaniard in her sights. What a popular win this would be for Katrina McKiernan. So unfortunate, almost unique, that achievement. 3 consecutive silver medals in the World Cross Country Championships, and how these crowds would dearly love to see her take a gold medal in major international competition. She hasn't achieved it on the track. Really, her track ambitions have been blown apart over the last couple of years. Failed to finish the European Championships 10,000 meters this year, as she did the World Championships 10,000 meters last year. She blamed her poor form in mid-season this summer on a lactate problem from altitude training trip to Albuquerque. But Vaquero still in the lead by some 10 meters at the moment. So with some 600 meters left then, maybe slightly more, but that big hill, remember, is on that in that final section. Vaquero there, who certainly isn't aesthetically the most attractive looking of runners, a little duck-footed there, web-footed the way she's running, covering the ground very, very effectively indeed. McKiernan has got that bouncy, long, loping stride of hers, has now closed up the ground on the Spaniard and has really got her in her sights. Looks like Ribeiro's challenge for the first or second places at least has been blown now. And indeed, she's under threat for that bronze medal as the small pack closes up on her. But McKiernan hits the front. Vaquero grimaces and grits her teeth as they come round this bend now to climb the hill for the final time. Then it's the long downhill drag towards the finish. McKiernan does have a very impressive finish in cross-country races. Maybe it's not fast enough to really handle the big names on the track circuit, but in cross-country, she's amongst the very fastest in the world. Now Vaquero hanging right onto McKiernan here as they climb so hard. That 50 or 60 meter slope really testing the leg power. McKiernan, has she got the recovery coming off the top of the hill to lengthen that stride and push away to gold? A gold medal which has been so long deserved and yet so elusive for her. Vaquero working very, very hard for this. McKiernan knows she's there. Surely can raise her game now. She's not to be denied. Vaquero having a little bit of trouble with that surface. It's always difficult when you're running along a camber like that with the ground wanting to push you away to one side. Ribeiro dropped back. Look, she's way, way back now in some 5th or 6th place even, as one of the Romanians has come through into 3rd place. That last kilometre has taken just 3 minutes, so certainly the pace has been up to notch impressively by McKiernan and Vaquero, but she's not getting away, McKiernan. The Spaniard maintaining this challenge. Katrina McKiernan, though, the 25-year-old Irish girl, has so often been denied victory. Surely she won't be today. She must have the speed to take gold. pushing hard for the line. Both these athletes grimacing hard. But here comes the Spaniard as the line approaches. Vaquero is desperate to take gold, as did Abel Anton over 10,000 metres this summer in Helsinki. The Spaniards had a marvellous European Championships in the men's distance running events, and McKiernan working very, very hard in what is virtually a sprint event for these women. Less than 15 minutes on the clock. McKiernan hanging onto the line. Vaquero, it is for Spain in second place, and it does look as though McKiernan's going to take European Championships cross-country gold, and she does. What a great run from her. She really had to work for that. Coming through into third place is the Russian. That's an impressive run by Zilyayeva. Looks good in the early stages, has been able to maintain it. Ribeiro there back in sixth place, I think. In fact, one of the Romanians we think may have taken the bronze medal. Not good coverage there of the third and fourth place athletes crossing the line. But what a great sprint finish there between the first and second athletes. No British athletes through the line yet, and it was long regarded as a British squad that would be struggling in this sort of company. There's the first two athletes, Katrina McKiernan and Julia Vaquero of Spain. Andrea Wallace there, obviously given her all, has been struggling with an Epstein-Barr virus, the British athlete there in the white vest, throughout the last couple of years. Alongside her there was Laura Adam, 16th at Bolbeck a couple of weeks ago, just to put things in perspective. There's Angie Hulley, she too looks to have given 101%. And Bev Hartigan there too. So it does look as though the British squad packed well, but some way down the field as Irish scarves and colours are brandished loud and clear for Katrina McKiernan. Gold at last for McKiernan. I'm sure she would gladly swap that for one place better in any of her last three world attempts at the World Cross Country Championships. But who knows, maybe she'll take that gold medal in the World Cross Country this coming March. World Cross Country, of course, is in Durham, in the northeast of England, just some 40 or 50 kilometres down the road from Alnwick. But that really was a top-notch competition from those two. You won't see much better distance running on the world scene than that in cross-country. The men's race, well, that's coming up soon. Due off in about 20 minutes' time, the men's race, run over 9.1 kilometres. They'll be covering a full 5 laps of this course. And I wonder if their race will go very much to form, as did the women's. McKiernan and Ribeiro pushing the race hard, doing a lot of the work in the early stages. There's that setting for the Alnwick Castle. Used in a great many film and television as film and television backdrops. Northeast of England, Northumberland indeed. Famous for its castle, Bamborough rather, amongst the most attractive of them, along with Alnwick. And there are the first three. Indeed, it was a Romanian, Elena Fidatov, who took the bronze medal. McKiernan winning with 14.29 by the smallest of margins from Vaquero of Spain. Good run that from Vaquero, who, as I said earlier, was 6th in the World Cross Country back in March, behind McKiernan, behind Chepnogino of Kenya, who took the gold medal. So Fidatov, it was, taking the bronze medal for Romania. Well, that men's competition now due off in about 15 minutes' time. At 2:45 Central European time, 2:45 in Britain. A lot of big names in that race, including Dieter Baumann, the Olympic 5,000 metres champion, indeed the European 5,000 metres champion. Can he repeat that gold-winning form on the country? We shall find out shortly. Join us after the break for a look at one or two of the favourites